Hello and welcome to this edition of Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Dennis Jai and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe to discuss the issues that we have tonight. I have my co-host, Mr. Asuni Sia. Mr. Sia, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Dennis, thank you. Tough Talking Thursday is my place. I'm glad that Mr. Cooney is here. I got a couple of bitter balls for him, politically speaking. Let's do this.
We want to welcome you, gentlemen and lady, for this edition of Tough Talking Thursday. Joining us from the Great Britain, London, Mr. Isaac W. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Well, thank you very kindly. I'm humble. My pleasure. Thank you very kindly. I'm humble. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Also joining us from the state of Arizona is the VP for the Unity Party USA and also the producer and presenter of The Drive, Mr. George Preston Lobo.
Thank you very much, Mr. C. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon with these great panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. And he calls himself George Preston Lobo, but I call him George Star Lobo. Sir, are you there? We also have joining us from the state of Georgia, right here in Hot Atlanta, the former president of the River G Association USA, Mrs. Alice Wilson Moba. Well, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
It is a pleasure being here, and I'm very honored to be among these gentlemen.
Thank you. We are trying for gender balance. Last but not the least is our own chief political analyst right here on Focus on Liberia, the man from Kabara, Wilmon Weti Kuni. Mr. Kuni, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. Always a pleasure to be here.
As you may know now, elections in 2023, and it seems to me that the primary in the Collaborating Political Party, or CPP, is shaping up. You can see that the flyers of Mr. Joseph Newman Boakai, the flyers are out. Introducing Mr. Boakai to the public as a potential runner in the 2023 elections to unseat President George Weah. That's the flyer there from Mr. Boakai. You may have also heard that Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings said he's not going to be number 2 to anybody. That tells me that Mr. Cummings is also in the race. And very recently, we heard on Spoon TV that A.B. Darius Dillon, the senator, the most popular senator in the country by far, is throwing his hat in the race as well as a possible primary contender for the CPP. Based on those, the man we rely on here for all things politics, Mr. Ansoni Sia, formulated 3 basic questions for our guest tonight. Mr. Sia.
Dennis, thank you. And at this time, I want to welcome all our listeners in cyberspace. Welcome to this exciting edition here, Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday. This is where we tough talk. We talk tough, politically speaking. These are the 3 questions that we have for our panelists to look into. Question number 1, is Joe Boakai the Joe Biden of Liberia? This
Mr.
outstanding panelist
before you go ahead,
into this question.
What is the basis of that question, Mr. Sia, before we even start?
Yeah, so before we can start, we know that Joe Boakai is being criticized heavily by most people that he's too old. But then those in the Unity Party and supporters of Joe Boakai will point at Joe Biden. So, well, you are saying Joe Boakai is too old. But look at Joe Biden. He's now the president of the United States. He too was classified as Sleepy Joe by Donald Trump. And in Liberia, others are criticizing Joe Boakai and they call him Sleepy Joe. But that Sleepy Joe of America will go to win the White House, and he's doing marvelous. And so George Lobo is telling us this is Joseph Homo Boakai. More so, George Lobo is trying to tell us, I think he is the Joe Biden of Liberia. We will find out here, and I'm glad, Dennis. Let me show you something that George Lobo is here. Yeah, it's George Lobo with his old man right there. They are both comfortably seated. I don't know whether they were trying to strategize for 2023, but we'll find out. And that is the reason we brought this question. Is Joe Boakai the Joe Biden of Liberia? And folks, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at their record when they were both not serving as vice president and when they both serve as vice president. And then we'll be able to tell whether Joe Boakai is actually that Joe Biden of Liberia. Where is my next question? You want us to go to that, Dennis?
Yeah, let's go to question number 2 before we start.
All right, question number 2. We are asking this question. Is Alexander Benedict Cummings a stranger to Liberian politics? He been around. Some people say he's not gaining that political traction. Some people say the terrain is strange. He's a corporate guy. He used to sitting in the office. He doesn't know how to connect with the ordinary people. He has the money, but we don't see the people. So some people are saying he is the stranger in this business. He should not be here. But his supporters are saying, no, wait and see. He's coming back and he's coming strong. Last but not the least, on Spoon FM, we heard from a supporter of Darius DeLong announcing to the Liberian people that DeLong will be a candidate. Really, we will find out right here. Dennis, let's get started.
All right. There you have it. We want to start with the first question. Is Mr. Joe Boakai the Joe Biden of Liberia? The two have similarity, as Anthony has narrated. So we want to go around the room and answer that very question. I mean, who should kick this off then? George Preston Lobo.
So, George Lobo, my big question to you is your Joseph Homo Boakai, you call him, the Joe Biden of Liberia? If your answer is yeah, why? And this time around, tell us. No, let him give an opening statement first. Go ahead.
So first and foremost, Mr. Stay, once again, I want to thank the public for tuning in. I want to thank Focus on Liberia for the opportunity to be here today as a panelist. When you ask the question, is Joe Biden or Joseph Boakai the Joe Biden of Liberia? It depends the context in which you are asking the question. The very first thing we must not forget, the way the two of them serve. Ambassador Joseph Newman Boakai have never been elected senator, so it will be very different for them to be compared the same. But it depends in what context. What the Liberians are saying is that a man with experience, as the Americans decided, given the number of candidates they had this going election, the Americans decided that they needed someone who understood the dynamics of the American politics, who has some public service experience, and who have served his country. So based on that, they decided to go with Joe Biden. So when you look at Liberia and look at the current political landfill, we make the same comparison and say, okay, let's look at the guys who are available to the Liberian public, who has been this servant, who have served his people, how long have they been in public service, what is his experience? And on the basis of that, Joseph Newman Boakai meets and checks those boxes. He has been vice president for 12 years. He has served as minister. He has served as managing director. So he has been a very dedicated, humble public servant. And on the basis of that background, that is the reason why you see many of us in the Unity Party do believe that, yeah, it is indeed Joseph Newman Boakai who could be considered the Joe Biden of Liberia. And that is our background for that argument.
That's John Preston Lobo, who agrees that indeed Joseph Newman Boakai is the Joe Biden of Liberia. Let's go to Mr. Cooney.
Well, again, I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited. I think Focus on Liberia is setting the trend here when it comes to our political process for 2023. I do share the position that all of our candidates need to be critically analyzed We all share the view that it's about time that when it comes to public service, especially when it comes to elections, we should critically assess those who are putting themselves up for election. We should critically investigate their track record. We should critically investigate their morals. We should critically investigate their competency, and all of these variables are very much important. I'm happy that Lobo is saying that his major presentation here is that the Unity Party believes that Joseph Yima Barker is the Joe Biden of Liberia. I'm happy that that is the party belief. The party can believe whatever they want to believe. The question is, do Liberians consider Honorable Boakai to be equivalent to Joe Biden? And as we go on this show, I will respectfully disagree. The two individuals could not have been more different, no matter what context you put it in. Maybe the only comparison they may have is the age range. But beyond the age, there is nothing you can compare the two with in terms of political achievement, in terms of competence, in terms of leadership. There is nothing you can compare the two. So I strongly disagree that Omar Boakai is our Joe Biden. He can only be our Joe Biden only on the basis of age and maybe on the basis of his family status. But in terms of effectiveness as a leader, in terms of track record as a leader, I think the old man is a miserable failure in the Liberian political environment.
Same question. Let me go to Mrs. Moba.
Thank you very much. As I said, I'm honored to be on this program. I would say that Honorable Boakai is unique in his own way. I know Joe Biden was born in November of in the 40s and has a family. Same thing with Boakai. He was born in the 40s in the same November. So age-wise, they are the same. I cannot say they are the same in every other thing because Joe Biden, despite serving as vice president to Obama, he has his own track record serving the United States Senate. He has had a lot of experience outside the Senate, personal experiences that made him a very strong leader. For example, the loss of his family, his son, and other tragedies that happened in his personal lives made him very strong person. And during the elections, before the election, when they had a debate, we tested Joe Biden energy and strength during the debate. So he debated the issues. So we knew exactly that after Obama's term, he would be an effective leader. But I'm not sure, besides being a public servant in Liberia and serving as VP, where normally people cannot say anything, whatever the president does, you can't say, you can't disagree. I don't know whether in that case, I would say he is effective. And after the elections, when there were protests, other people felt like the election did not go right. I did not really see him standing up for the people that believe in him. So I don't really think that there is any comparison beside the age and the date of birth. I mean, the month of birth.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to our man from London, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Is Joe Boakai the Joe Biden of Liberia?
So we are now again. Let me say it is a good pleasure of being here, and I want to greet all of those following the broadcast. Now we are discussing also of the framework of the CPP. And if we are to discuss also the framework of the CPP and to individually look at the candidates in the CPP, as we are now doing, I like to say that there is a huge similarity that exists with Joe Boakai and the President of the United States now, Joe Biden. The two earlier speakers, excluding Mr. Lobo, they said only age was the similarity. I disagree. And I think that is not an earnest assertion. The first thing is both men have personal morality. They are great family members. They are great family people. Second thing is they come to public service now with a wealth of experience. Now you can't tell me that somebody who served 12 years as vice president is lacking in experience. I mean, that would be earnest. So Mr. Joe Boakai, like body, brings wealth of experience to the presidency if you were to contest again. I'd like to also say, like Mr. Biden, Joe Boakai has no tarnishes to his character. For 12 solid years he served, there are no accusations of corruption that's bedeviling him. And so he can go to the pool with those. What I can say and what I would like to caution our colleagues in the Unity Party to do is to now work seriously hard in positioning Mr. Boakai so that his campaign will not experience some of what I consider a potential challenge. And the first challenge I will see with a Boakai team, which I think the Boakai people should be working on, instead of them slavishly defending some of the morally deprived people behind or that are in the CPP, they should now start focusing on, for example, how can Mr. Boakai, our Joe Boakai, exert reasonable influence on members of the legislature? And I say this because if you are going to serve as president, you need to positively influence members of the unity parties that are in the legislature, particularly the Senate, because the Senate is the House of Elders. But I do not see at this stage the former vice president, Joe Boakai, exerting much influence. For example, there was
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
So you are alluding to the fact you agree that Joe Boakai is the Joe Biden of Liberia. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. There is a high degree of comparison. All right. Okay. I'm giving you his experience. I'm telling you there are no tarnishes to his character. I'm telling you that he comes with what? Personal morality. All right. So he's a decent family man. So with those three things on his side, I think he can be compared to Joe Biden of the United States. And then I want to go into the challenges that he needs to deal with. But if you think I should leave that,
he will bring that out later on.
We'll get to that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Sear.
Dennis, I just want to let viewers know that sometimes you see me as the host, but I'm not hosting today. I have come here to contribute.
Oh, you're not hosting today?
To the conversation.
That's why he's not in studio.
That is why you don't see focus on Liberia behind me.
I thought it was co-hosting.
Exactly.
No, I'm not co-hosting. That is why you don't see me in studio.
So, he's playing
on the question that whether or not Joe
someone has the show on, there's echo back in the background. Someone, whoever is watching it, needs to lower it. Yeah, so that.
What's that mean? That's not mean.
No, whoever is watching it, lower it. Lower it, put on mute.
All right. So Mr. Sear will be wearing dual hats, so don't be afraid.
Go ahead, Mr. Sear. You want to hear me from Mr.
Thank
Sear.
you, and Mr. Lobo, the sound that you talking about. Myself kept hearing it, and I don't know where it's
Yeah.
coming from. But let's continue here. Um, is Joe Boakai the Joe Biden of Liberia? Yes or no? Yes or no? And the reasons can't even, I don't want to begin naming them, but we'll start here. No, Joe Boakai is not the Joe Biden of Liberia. I will start by saying, yes, they all are about the same age. Joe Biden is about 78. Joe Boakai is about 77. Yes,
76.
well, said it. I think they all born in the same November, if I'm not mistaken, or Joe, or somebody might be listening to the show somewhere, is creating some feedback there. So, yes, that is the only thing I will agree they share in common. I will also agree with Mr. Jackson that in terms of family, they share that in common. They all come from quote unquote decent family. But when it comes to leadership here, it should go far beyond, somebody coming from a decent family. It's almost like saying, oh, the man has good intention. George Lobo always said good intention is not good enough. If you have a good intention, that's a plus, but you need to come and actualize it so that it can be able to impact the lives of the people. And so looking at Joe Boakai, his record, then when he was in government, LPMC, LPRC, uh, Minister of Agriculture, there are not specifics that any of you here, I can challenge you. You can point to where Joe Boakai transformed any institution where he has served. My understanding is that he was at LPRC. It was a storage facility at the time. When he was leaving, he left that single storage facility. Tell me, did he make any significant impact there? I would say no. LPMC, did he make any significant impact there? No. When sometime back he was an agriculture, we have about a $50 million around 83, 85. Liberia was not self-sufficient in rice production. No. So when folks come here and say they may have excellent public service record, then your definition of excellent is a disservice to Liberia. It's almost like telling me, Anthony, you are a good guy because I gave you $5 and you kept it. Even though I gave your brother the same $5, he turned it to $10. That is why you are telling me. The essence of public service is to make a difference. It's to make an impact. It's not just to sit behind the office chair, keep it clean, and warm it up so that it can be good for you tomorrow when you show up to work. That is what I have seen Omen Boakai has done consistently as a public servant. More so when he became vice president. The evidence all over the place. And we have some images here to show you. And so, folks, I will come back, but let me make my opening statement. In no way prior to becoming vice president, and more so when he served as vice president, he cannot, and nobody who supports Joseph Boakai can show me the impact he's made from one point to the other. Did he grow the budget of Liberia when he was at the Ministry of Agriculture? No. The same can be said about LPMC. The same can be said about LPRC and all other places that he had worked. He did not make any significant contribution other than being a comfortable guy sitting behind a desk that is clean for him to enjoy, period. So no, it's not a Joe Boakai, Joe Biden of Liberia. Thank you.
That was the voice of the political bulldog here at Focus on Liberia, Mr. Anthony Sear, adding his words. Before I go to George Preston Lobo again, this time I'm going to switch it around and go to Mrs. Mumba on your second round. What, you give us a little bit, but why do you think Joe Boakai is not the Joe Biden of Liberia?
Well, Joe Biden of the United States, as I know, he is a tough guy. All right. And I know that he's a tough guy because, like I said from the beginning, I watched him acting tough. During the campaign, when there were debates, he stood his ground. And the very person that he worked with, there were criticism of Obama. And that's the toughness Obama saw, for which he was tapped to be the vice president. Can we say that of Liberia? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying whether Joe Boakai is not a good leader, but to say he is the Joe Biden of Liberia, this is where I differ. I don't want to believe that he is the Joe Biden of Liberia because the trend of things that we look at during the elections, he did not take the kind of actions that we expected him to take when many things went wrong, and he had the opportunity to stand up for the people. Because when you become the commander in chief, you gotta make some tough decisions. If you cannot make those tough decisions to make people to be convinced that tomorrow, when you take the wheel to drive Liberian people, you already know the situation that we're going through. We need a tough leader to lead the country to success. But if you cannot show that kind of leadership that we think can make a difference, then it makes it very difficult for people to compare you to the Joe Biden in the United States, because he has already been tested. We know he's been tested on many occasions. Even right now, you can hear him talking tough to the Russians and the Chinese. So you cannot compare the two because there's no instance. And I want to agree with Brother Anthony here. So all the places that he served, what is the example we can look at to see that he can be a better commander in chief? So I have not been convinced unless he get to power before showing that he can be tough.
Mr. Jackson, the picture here show one of the reasons we asked the question is people say Sleepy Joe, and they will see Joe Biden also sleeping. So that's one. But let me hear more, and then we'll go to Kuni and then Lobo. Let me hear more of why you think Joe Boakai is the Joe Biden of Liberia. Give me more.
Are you talking to me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So again, if you it's good that we are in April, right? And if you follow the history of Liberia relative to April, you will know that April is a disturbing month in Liberia. And one of the reasons why we fought in Liberia was that government in time past was exclusionary, meaning the vast majority of the people were excluded from the executive governance of the country. And one of the things that Joe Boakai did as a vice president was to demonstrate ample evidence that the surest way to consolidate our democracy was for the government to be inclusive. So who he made his chief of staff in his office? A diehard CDCN called C.C. Kuya. Not many people who had done that. C.C. Kuya was in CDC bombarding the Selig government. When Mr. Boakai took over as vice president, he said, we will not do like we did in time past to exclude people from the government because they have radical views. So he brought Steve on board. He did that for many other opposition people and brought them in the executive governance of the country. He believed that was a sure way to consolidate our democracy. He set that shining example. May we not gloss over that. The other thing he did, and I hear my sister talking about, Joe Biden was tough. Joe Biden was not tough when President Obama was on the throne or when he was serving as president. It is not the place for the vice president to usher the president. Never. Will you see
I
that?
said before
But madam, let me lay my point.
Let him speak.
Nowhere, everywhere where you see the vice president attempt to usher the president, there is a problem. Today in Liberia, even though there is a denial about it, but we know that there is not a good chemistry existing between Madam Joel Howard Taylor, the vice president, and our own excellency President Weah. We don't know what responsible for that, but there are those who are attributed that to her trying to usher Mr. President. So Mr. Vice President Boakai play the role of a loyal vice president. And that's what any good vice president would do to help the president to accomplish her goal. And you know, when Liberia being a watch with corruption, and then I go back again to April, right? One of the reasons why we fought war in the country was because of what corruption. They said rampant corruption. We have a gentleman who served for 12 solid years. Today, there are no tarnishes of corruption on him. And you're still telling me that he will not serve as a good president? I disagree. There are ample evidence to suggest that he will be a wonderful president. All he needs to do is to find a youthful vice president to help him carry out the function.
Thank you. Before you land, you said there's been no corruption. Has his office been audited?
I mean, even the thing is, you know,
I just want to be sure.
My point is, audit or no audit, there are people who serve in government, and you see the cloud of corruption allegation hovering over the head. As we stand, there are no cloud of corruption allegation hovering over the heads of former Vice President Boakai.
Thank you.
Whether or not he's being audited is beside the question. If nobody audited him, how will we know? But I'm saying, even if he have not been audited, we haven't heard any suspicion or any allegation of corruption hanging around him. And I think because of that, since we are struggling with the issue of corruption, we should find somebody with such a clean reputation to head our country or to move our country forward.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Cooney, and we have some gravity to show, because I asked that question about audit because anytime we have not done that audit, we can't be so sure. But let me go to Mr. Cooney.
At least he declared his answer, though.
Yeah, Mr. Cooney, you really believe that VP Boakai is not the Joe Biden of Liberia? How so?
Not by any stretch of imagination. He's not. He's not. You know, sometimes it's a little bit disappointing when we are discussing qualities of a leader in our country. All of us here being aware of the challenges that we face, then we hang to very low-hanging fruit. The man is a good family man. Do you know how many Liberians are good family men in the country? Do you know, is that a criteria? Is a good family man? I can assure you there are hundreds of thousands of very good Liberian family men. The man is never being accused of corruption. Do you know how many people have never been accused of corruption in Liberia? Are these the low things we're going to use to select a leader? What I'm going to tell you is that all Omer Boakai has done in his entire life, he is a serial bureaucrat. That's all. He's a serial bureaucrat, transitioning from one bureaucratic position to the other. There is nothing he has achieved in all of the positions he has served that transformed the life of Liberia on the national scale. I listened to my brother here talking about Harris M. Steve Koya in his office. Do you know how many opposition presidents George Manning we are in government today, including the great Mary Doe and Mary Bro? Are these the standards you want us to really take? Do you know how many opposition people that end up in Georgia government? These standards are very low. The fact of the matter is, for over 40 years, Mr. Boakai has done nothing nationally.
You need how many opposition in government?
Hold on, Mr. Jackson.
In terms of public policy, in terms of national achievement that transformed the lives of Liberia over the period. Don't take my own word for it. The man himself said for the 12 years, he parked himself in the garage for 12 years. And in his own words, He said the 12 years was squandered. He squandered 12 years. And you telling Liberians that somebody who squandered 12 years going to be all of a sudden be a great president? That is a travesty. And we can go further beyond that. You said there is no allegation of corruption. Jackson, Joseph Boakai was fired twice in public service. He was fired by Samuel Doe for corruption. And even the Amos Sawyer government, I was a member of that government, the interim government of national unity that was so focused on peace. That government was so weak to the point that Sawyer could not even fire an assistant minister. Joseph Boakai was again fired by the interim government. And you say there is no allegation of corruption. This thing, look, Liberians are well informed on these matters. So you can't say that. The fact of the matter, like Asuni said, the man was LPRC, he left it exactly what he is. He was Minister of Agriculture, the same question we face today. He was Minister of Managing Director of LPMC. Where are we with regard to agricultural products? None, no achievement. But let me add this other point. Not only that, Mr. Boakai failed in all of these things. For 12 years, the Republic of Liberia paid Omer Boakai for over almost $30 million expenditure to the office of the vice president. Only to change a spark plug in the garage, start a car, and can't tell us you were only in a garage. What are the achievements for other entities? Where did he leave the National Lottery, the Liberia Marketing Association? What are the national defining accomplishments he left behind in all of these entities? This man has failed at everything that is given him. He's only expert in transitioning from one government to the other, Now, you say he's Joe Biden. Let me tell you, the modern day vice president, nobody says the vice president will outshine the president. That is ludicrous. The vice president is supposed to help the president based on your expert area, your knowledge-based area. When Madam Salih became vice president, she declared corruption as enemy number one. Did Joseph Boakai help Madam Salih to fight corruption? What expertise he put on the table to help Madam Salih? He was former Minister of Agriculture. What agricultural expertise he put on the table for Liberia to be self-sufficient? What infrastructure plan that he put on the table? Vice presidents are given responsibility based on their expertise. Biden didn't outshine Obama. Biden enhances the achievement of Obama based on his expertise. He helped Obama in the area of foreign policy. He helped Obama in the area of legislative achievement. He has all of these things that impact Liberia, the passage of the Affordable Care Act, all of these things. And before that, he in the legislature, he was able to craft legislature for healthcare, crime bill, the Violence Against Women Act. I'm telling you, I'm submitting to our viewers today, there is nothing nationally that Omer Boakai can point to that as a result of his 42 years of service that benefit the entire Republic of Liberia. Having a staffer in your office is not national achievement. Let us start making mockery of our country with this kind of silliness.
Thank you. Mr. Lobo, you got your work cut out for you.
First and foremost, I want to be very clear here today. Joseph Numa Boakai records have been scrutinized under the microscope by the Liberian electorates. And I think every one of us here who speak, we should look at 2017 election results. The data prove that all the allegations being thrown out here, Liberians did not validate not a single one of them. Joseph Numa Boakai, he was the external bearer of the Unity Party, and he performed better than Madam Salih did against a coalition. That itself tells you that Liberians did not buy all these arguments that has been made here against his character. But I will not get into too much of that. I want to speak to some other issues. What I'm not going to do tonight, and let me be very clear to all Liberians moving forward, I do not intend to relitigate 2017. The Liberian people listen to all the arguments you've made here today, and they sent Joseph Numa Boakai to the runoff, and they felt that he was the best, even though he went against a coalition. So that have been litigated. But let's speak to the facts. It is absurd and it's so interesting to hear professionals when we say that a man who served for 42 years, like Mr. Kony would say, that such a man will serve this length of time without doing nothing. I don't know any company in the world that keeps an employee who does not perform. That itself is just out of my mind. It don't make no sense to me. There is no employer in the world who keeps an employee who does not perform. So that argument is just dead at point, rather. But let me proceed here. You know, we need to be honest to our public. We need to be honest to the people. Ambassador Joseph Numa Boakai is an honest, dedicated, committed public servant. And it is on that background for which he has been able to give over 40 years of his life to his country. And I think it is unfair that we come here and castigate such a humble servant. His character is what speaks. Listen, being a commander-in-chief or a president, it requires a lot. One will not go to no school to acquire a degree in presidency, but the experience, your service over time is what you bring to the presidency. And it is based on your performance in the past that allows people to say, if this man was honest in areas he served, if this man was showing up to work on time, if this man have been humble, he has moral values, he has been corruption-free, this man can be a great president. Why it is true, I know if I was to stand Mr. Jackson, thank you, people will say, oh, maybe because he's praising Ambassador Boakai. But I will allow him to continue to speak for himself. Let me say something and respond to Mr. Kony and Anthony said. Anthony said, I think it is advisable that when we come to these public discussions, that we make sure we get the facts correct so that we present it to the public. The ADA project you're talking about, it was in 1982. And first and foremost, I will advise you read the understanding of that money. The funds were provided not to just invest in rice production. The funds were made available to provide expertise in the agriculture sector, to provide supplies. They talk about fertilizer, improving the markets. They talk about paving feeder roads. So you do the math and understand what $15 million. And let me be very clear here today. When we speak of the agriculture sector in Liberia, many of you think it's only to grow rice. The fishery industry is in the agriculture sector. The production of cocoa, coffee, plantain, cassava, that makes up the agriculture sector. So when people come and say Ambassador Boakai was agriculture, while Liberia is not self-sufficient, that itself is not being professional enough. But I will say this to you. It is unfortunate that we will sit here today and say that a Joseph Numa Boakai, a man who was born in Wesonga, a boy who started as a warehouse supervisor in Vanjama, will go on to become the LPNC boss, and you say he did not perform. I will let the Liberian public to discuss that because, like I said, I am not prepared to relitigate 2017. On the issue of LPRC, Mr. C, let me be very clear with you. When a minister or a managing director is appointed, he or she job is to help carry out the president developmental agenda. All right? So they go, the Republic of Liberia, time without numbers, have always used LPRC as a storage facility. So his job as the managing director was to ensure that that entity ran smoothly and Liberians had petroleum products on time when they needed it and the price was affordable. That was his responsibility. You can argue that, okay, maybe he should have gone to the president, but now your next question should be, was Liberia willing to say we wanted to bring in oil products in its original stage to process here? That is a discussion. And one of the things that breaks my heart, Mr. C and Mr. Ja and the entire panelists, this is one reason why when I speak to Ambassador Boakai and he said, George, one of my major goals, if I ever get to the presidency, is to ensure that Liberia will have system. He said we need system in this country. It is unfortunate that a man will leave an entity. Today, when we Google, even if you go to any other minister or managing director at any entity, our country do not have a system that we can be able to provide for our public. What was the performance from time to time? Because it is unfortunate that when Joseph Boakai, who ascended to LPMC as the managing director, under his leadership, for the first time, that a Liberian farmer was able to export agricultural produce to the world market. And for you to sit here and say he did nothing, the Liberian electorates will make that decision. And let me say this, on the issue that Mr. Coney said, that Joe Biden represented Barack on foreign policy. Then Mr. Coney is unfortunate. You have glasses and you've been around. I'm pretty sure you should be aware. Ambassador Boakai represented Liberia. When Liberians were dying in numbers during Ebola, he came to the world at the United Nations General Assembly and rallied the world. He went to the White House and met with then Barack Obama and was able to secure 25 million with the deployment of U.S. troops. Is that now foreign policy? He is the only vice president in Liberia history to have gone on more than 4 state visits to Beijing, to the UK, to France, and in the United States. And you want to question his foreign policy experience? The Liberian people have let it get it. What I'm not prepared to do tonight, like I say, I will say this to all of us. Ambassador Boakai have proven over time, and I'm grateful for one statement he made. He said, throughout my life, I have learned to separate what belongs to me and what belongs to the people. And let me say this, Mr. Cooley, you misspoke when you said Ambassador Boakai said he was just a parked race car. I think it will be honest enough when we're going to quote people. There is a reason why in English language there is a quotation mark, because they want to make sure those were the words of the person. And let me say what Ambassador Boakai said. He said, I was a parked race car. What you refuse to do is to understand the context in which he spoke. Now, what is a race car? For any general person, any common man, a race car is one of the fastest cars that should always be on the track running. So that means a man like me, with this depth of experience, with this wealth of knowledge, I should have always been there advising the president. And we must not forget, like Mr. Jackson said, he had to operate in the confines of the Constitution.
Thank you, Mr. Lobo.
We gave him the right to advise. Let me finish, because this.
Let me
make this one point. Let me finish my thought on this. So moving forward enough, why many Liberians say he is the Joe Biden? Mrs. Alice Wilson said during the election, I need to address this, Dennis, that she didn't see him stand up to speak for the people. Mrs. Watson, he has built a reputation as a statesman, as a decent public servant. Ambassador Boakai would never have come up to tell his people, like seditions did in 2011, to challenge the police and 7 people lost their lives. This is why he said, I will not allow one blood to be spilled in this country because of an election victory for me. Therefore, I accept the result. I think that is what smart leaders should do, and we should applaud him for that. He could have told Unity Party partisans to get in the streets and riot, but he said no, in the interest of the country. I accept the result, and I think we should applaud him for that.
Thank you. Mr. Sia, you have the last word on this one.
Dennis, thank you, and I hope I will be given the same equal amount of time, because there is a lot that Lobo threw out there that clearly can't hold water, as well as Mr. Jackson. These 2 gentlemen, they can go back to the pages of history and try to turn them upside down. It's up to them. But this is what I'm going to say. Mr. Lobo tried to justify Ambassador Joseph Yeman Boakai lukewarm, bureaucratic resume by telling us that he got elected because the Liberian people made a determination that he is not corrupt. Donald Trump got elected. It got morally bankrupt. So if we are going to use election as the yardstick to determine that somebody on the issue of credibility and record is qualified, then George W. should take that yardstick and throw it through it. We know. I know a guy called Yeke Koloba. Will you say the yardstick that was used for his election
I'm discussing
is the one? Let me learn. I never interrupted you. Hold on. You can correct me when you're ready to speak. All right. Are you saying The yardstick that was used to elect Yeke Koluba is a good one that what we should use for Liberia? Is that what you are telling me? Now, Mr. Joseph Yuma Boakai, when he was vice president, he said they squander a lot of opportunities. I see Lobo talking about race car, equating the experience of Joseph Yuma Boakai to that of a race car. Do you know the reason why people park a race car? Either it's defective or not useful. And so, in his own words, he said, I was a race car park. Yes, you were parked because you were defective, you were not effective. That's why Manaseli had to park you. Why will a president park a race car when Liberia is 200 miles behind our brothers and sisters? And I, as a president, will pass my race car? That means that race car is not useful for national development. And so the evidence became clear that Mr. Boakai was not up to the task. Unlike Joe Boakai, when Obama got elected, the first thing he did when the auto industry went in limbo was to assign Joe Biden to take charge of the auto industry. The auto industry has been rescued. That's what he did. Can anybody tell me any assignment that was given to Joseph Boakai by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf that remain a signature policy accomplishment in Liberia? All those are listening to me. Name me one. I challenge anybody. But unlike Joe Boakai, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf will pay merry-go-round from one project to another, despite merry-go limited qualifications. But she was useful. She was not packed by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. You see, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is calculated. H-Bama formula criticized Ellen Johnson Sirleaf more than any other. But Ellen pulled him closer. And Ellen did not have any use for Joseph Yuma Boakai. And so when we're talking about corruption, when they say, oh, Joseph Yuma Boakai is not corrupt, but let me share something here quickly. There is an article here on the far right. Education Minister APRC boss dismissed. That's what Mr. Cooney was talking about. So let George Lobo go and do a research why Joseph Yuma Boakai was dismissed. And in the Sawyer administration, a transitional government Mr. Cooney talked about earlier, they said he was dismissed because of gross ineptitude. In other words, he didn't have the leadership wherewithal to run an institution. And so he was dismissed. And so when we are looking for a leader at that time, critical time in our nation's history, when the man who has much experience, look at this image, will join the likes of Nyomli, the likes of Ure, to go to a police headquarters to do what? Unlike Joe Boakai, who will be doing pellicule at the critical junction in our nation history, to put it on social media. What we saw Joe Biden doing whenever there was crisis was to address the American people. Joe Boakai could have addressed the nation, but he chose to go to the police headquarters to warm an empty chair, because that is what he used to doing throughout his time in his government. And he did that for 12 years as vice president. And so as agriculture minister, you would think that this man will provide excellent leadership. But yeah, he is again in this industrialized age, when people are using machines to engage in mass production. This is our vice president. This is the experience that Joe Lobo is talking about. To go on a rest farm and put two boys behind you and hold rest in your hand to fool our people. But this is what the very Joe Boakai would do when he became vice president. The fence of his house that was up to window level, it went above the roof of his house. That's what he did. So yes, he's humble. So I don't know what kind of humility he's talking about. So let's talk about corruption. Because Jackson, let me learn on my final point here. Then let's talk about corruption. Let me learn on my final point here. I beg you.
Okay.
Jackson, when you press him whether or not Joe Boakai has been audited, he gave a flimsy excuse whether or not he was audited is not important here. Really? Mr. Jackson, the vice president who was collecting nearly 2 million plus a year in 12 months, and you said auditing him is not important? Then I don't see, maybe you were not audited when you were in government. That's why you chose to go that route. So yeah, it's record here, folks. Quickly, Dennis. Joe Boakai, when he was vice president, who told us that he was the raised per pack, special allowance for him nearly every year was around 215,000. That is US. Foreign travel, means of travel, 113,000. Foreign travel daily subsistence allowance, 112,000. Foreign travel incidental allowance, 50,000. Domestic travel daily subsistence allowance, 512,000. Folks, if I continue with the list, maybe some of you will be going to Joseph Yaman Boakai house to tell you, oh man, you told us that you squander opportunities, keep the ones you already squander. Even down to vehicle maintenance, you were collecting 89,000 nearly every 12 years. Tell me this is not legalized corruption, folks. If this is not corruption, everybody in Liberia should shut their mouth about corruption, where bureaucrats and lords huge salaries to themselves and budget little for our people. If that is not corruption, all Liberians should forget about corruption. This is the classic corruption that is killing our country, where leaders like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf will give to themselves millions in salary. What is the difference between Boakai and we are today? What is the difference?
You want me to
respond? I rest my case.
Thank you. Okay, there's the place. There's a place. Hold on, Jackson. I know you are laughing so hard, but here is the question. Here is the question I want us to go to. Joe Boakai may not be Joe Biden. Well, they said it from the start that he's unique in his own way. But, and I have a question here that my senior brother asked, given the current political actors, given what we have now, would Joe Boakai be a better alternative? That's the question I want us to address. Let's put the Joe Biden one side now. Let's say Joe Biden is white, Joe Boakai is black. But given what we have, the situation, could Joe Boakai be a better alternative?
Yes.
Isaac?
No, absolutely no.
Okay, so
Mr. Johnson, will I couldn't speak?
Hold on.
Anthony, I want to have the last word on this.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll have the last word on this. Go ahead.
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll have the last word.
Start, Jackson.
I don't mind talking. I mean, my thing is, I'm doing my best not to take a rigid partisan line, because I think one of the challenges that are confronting our country is the footballification of our politics. So if you belong to a particular team, you have to slavishly defend that team, even though you know very well that team is not performing. And that is the challenge confronting our friend Sekuni. When he says that, I'm trying to resist the temptation of deep diving President Weah and his government. I don't want to critique. I do not want to critique their government. But when Brother Kone tried to downplay the issue of personal morality, the issue of respecting family decency, an institution that is protected by the state, and even the Holy Bible, I think we have a problem here. Because for anybody to lead responsibly, you must be a decent family man. For the 12 years that Mr. Boakai served the Liberian people, no girl or anybody went on Facebook or any book and said they were loving to him. As we now see today, I don't want to be critical too much, but please don't push me because
We're
personal
gonna put you.
morality is important. Today, there are myriad of allegations. Young girls going in the street and claiming to have all kind of relationship with the president. That is not,
Mr. Jackson.
That is not dignified. So anybody who want to kind of downplay, personal morality.
Your point is taken. Let's go to the
I'm still
question.
in flat. Do you want to?
Yeah, let's go to the question.
I'm still in flat. So that is crucial. The other thing that is crucial, and I see people dancing around and talking. Oh, you cannot divulge the successes of the Sally administration from Mr. Boakai's contribution to that administration. Even President Weah himself is on record for grading the Sally administration, I think 85% or 80%. So how can anybody who belongs to the CDC come here and try to draw a line of dichotomy between Boakai and the Sally administration? Today, Liberia was standing tall globally because of some of the legislation that Joe Boakai helped the Sally government to pass. Number one, on transparency, we established most of the transparency institutions in our country. The other thing is there was a flourishing. For the first time in many years, Liberia was not on Morphos Index. Under the Sally administration, with the aid of Joe Boakai, making sure that we acceded to the Table Mountain Declaration, making sure that we acceded to the Freedom of Information Act, Liberia became credited. Liberia became credited for what? Promoting free expression and free press. Today, those achievements are being pulled back. Transparency in government lacking. You want to come and talk about Joe Boakai can't do much? How is the government adhering to open government partnership when indeed the government will carry on the recast budget in darkness? The government passed the recast budget with all sharing that budget to the people.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's do this about Joe Boakai. We are not comparing, Kuni is not representing CDC.
No, there is that.
Hold on.
Anthony said we can't speak of this government. Don't say that.
Hold on.
When Anthony spoke, you talk about the government.
Hold on. But the question I ask is, given what we have now, would Joe Boakai be the better alternative?
He said yes. And then he went on to explain.
Okay.
I don't want to stop you when you answer the question. Hold on.
Yeah,
please go to the question.
Let me come on to the question directly.
Thank you.
Let me come on to the question directly. Mr. Boakai will be a good person because if you read conventional literature on democracy, it says the surer way to consolidate democracy is that the opposition must be seen as an amicable partner in driving the development agenda of the country. Mr. Boakai, as a peaceful person, somebody who believes in inclusive government, will be able to help Liberia because today, the government we have today is not as inclusive as anybody will want to talk about. Name me 5 opposition in this government. You will not do that. So the government is exclusive, is running an exclusionary policy, and there's the same thing that brought Liberia to where Liberia did not want to go anymore because we say it. So Joe is a peaceful person. He will promote peace and reconciliation in the country. He will be reconciliatory. The government will be inclusive. Will embrace all Liberians irrespective of their radical views. Who against it?
Thank you, Mr. Kune. Given the current situation,
I hope you will give me enough time because
was Joe Newman Boakai, and let's go straight to the question because you have 2 minutes.
Dennis, that is not fair when you allow Lobo to lambast me.
No, we started something new now.
Lambasted me for over 10 minutes. Then I get 2 minutes. That is not a fair. It's not a fair moderation of the show. Are you trying to
go ahead, Mr. Kune? Go ahead, Mr. Kune.
You allowed the 2 gentlemen to lambast me for over 20 minutes.
No, same as a scare. Anthony said went on all through.
Mr. Kune, go ahead.
Yeah, I've already answered the question. Absolutely no, he can never be a Joe Biden of Liberia.
No, the second question is, given the current political actors, could Joe Boakai be a better alternative? That's the
Absolutely
question.
no. He cannot
Okay.
be. He cannot be. No. He doesn't have the leadership skill. He doesn't have the competence. He doesn't have the track record of achievement to be. I've said that. He doesn't, no matter what kind of permutation you put in place, he cannot be. But what is glaring here is that when individuals lose the argument on the fight to go into other areas, first of all, Jackson, I never diminish family value on this show.
You said
I never
that.
diminish morality on this show.
You
What I
said that.
told you was that if we're using those qualities, you have thousands of other Liberians that meet that criteria. That's what I said. It is not diminishing those criteria. And Lobo, I didn't do a direct quote to Omer Boakai. The fact of the matter, you agree. The message was a parker. You were parked for 12 years. And the reason why you were parked for 12 years is because he had nothing to bring to the table. The only reason why he was brought to the table by Madam Salif in a competitive election is because he was from a vote-rich county. So once the ticket got elected, he became irrelevant. And the point I was making that you misunderstood that he had foreign travel, I'm telling you that in the modern era, people make themselves relevant by expertise. It is the expertise, the knowledge that you bring to the table that make you relevant. And I was giving you instances where Joe Biden became relevant. He became relevant because of his foreign policy expertise, because of his legislative expertise, because of his understanding of the different layers of democratic principle that will make him relevant to the Obama administration. He was not outshining Obama. He was helping Obama to enhance the leadership of Obama. I presume that every president wants their leadership to shine. So there will be no president logically that will be against a vice president that tries to advance the agenda. What we have is Omer Boakai had no skill to advance any agenda. He was only used as as an electoral prop. He came from a very populous county and he was effort to Madam Salif election. So when the ticket was elected, he went back to the garage and we spent over $40 million just for changing the spark plug and changing the oil. And that race car never left the garage. This serial bureaucrat want to use this as some experience to get elected president. And mind you, you're talking about the 1982 loan. Look at the 30 million Libyan rice project that was in his own country for ya. He had administrative control over that project. That another project that he squandered. He has supervision over that project. Again, what did he show? This man has no record of accomplishment. When you pose the question, what is Joe Boakai's national achievement? You'll go into all kind of micro things. He did this, he did that. I can submit for you. Leaders, if you talk about Joe Biden, they know him for the Violence Against Women Act. They know him for the crime bill. They know him for all these things. They didn't know him for the small thing that he did in Delaware. The fact of the matter is we'll be on this show for almost an hour. Both you and Jackson have yet to tell the viewers what Joe Boakai did that impacted Liberian nationally. If you call Amos Sawyer, people will say Sawyer wrote the Constitution that impacted everybody. What has Boakai done that impacted the Republic of Liberia for which we were electing president? The man is a failed leader. He's failed all over. He's a serial bureaucrat. It is Boakai and their like that have this great skill in transitioning from government to government. They play safe. They don't challenge anything. They don't bring no innovation. They don't bring no new vision. They just want to move from one government to the other, one government to the other. Then at the end of the day, they can't tell their experience. What experience you got? Then you talking about agriculture, don't mean rice. The critical demand of the country is rice. That's the staple food. So if they make you minister of agriculture, you cannot solve that question. What other question have you solved?
Not
Nothing.
2 minutes.
Zero.
Thank you. Alice, given the time now, can Joe Biden be the better alternative based on what we have on the ground right now?
Well, before I come to either yes or no, I would like to say that Honorable Boakai, previous records to me, um, need to be improved in some way for us to say yes or no. So I would say um, during his leadership as vice president, the local role, I did not really see anything that he did to alleviate the suffering of the people. You know, the local people are industrious people. So the rice farm, the pepper, and everything that they bring on the main road to sell. If there's no good road, how do we expect the people to sustain themselves? So I felt like he didn't do anything better to improve the situation, especially when it comes to the local road. But now let me come back to your question. Seeing what we have now, and if there's nothing spark up in the next half year to a year, then I would say we have no choice but to have him as an alternative.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Lobo.
No, Mr. Sear, I want the last word down. He
Mr.
can't, he have the last word. So let's see it go.
Thank you, Lobo, for giving me that opportunity. I don't know, you think if you're the last to speak,
No,
what you
no, no,
say,
just say.
that's my time.
Yeah,
I
Don't
want to put
interrupt
everything
me.
in context.
You
I want to put
Mr.
her together.
Mr. Lobo, hold on. Let him go.
Lobo is a founder.
Mr. Lobo, you were called upon to speak. You give your time. Allow me to flow.
Let him
So
go.
here's the
He's
thing,
a
Dennis.
founder.
Lobo, when he spoke earlier, he said something that was profound, which was that Joseph Human Boakai was so accomplished. That is why he has managed to stay in government for over 40 years. And he went further by saying there's no employer or no company in the world that will keep a man on the job when the man has nothing to contribute. That's what he said. But this very George Lobo is on record for reminding us, those of us who follow him, that the CDC government is noted for keeping people on the job who have nothing to perform. Mr. Lobo, do we have an agreement here? Yes, I think we have an agreement.
Speak,
Mr.
I will
Lobo will
speak
agree
later.
with me that when somebody who should be doing a piece of job is at the party headquarters on Wednesday, then seeing we have now come with fire. Yeah, he has nothing to contribute. So I'm saying this to tell Lobo that yes, in Liberia, there are thousands of people who have no contribution to make in government, and they are in government. So if you want to make that argument as a way of showing that Joseph Yoma Boakai contributed, and that is why he has been in government for this long. Let me tell you, there are some people that have been in government for 40 years. What they do, they go, they clock in, they go to the attire center. Lobo, you know this to be true. You and myself walk down the streets. Axel Jackson, who is here, also knows that. There are students who will go to foreign ministry clerking and go on campus. They have nothing to do. Even at the national legislature, secretaries will sit, they will be talking about football. They'll be talking about Barcelona. Do we not have that? So if you want to bring that here, George Lobo, then Joseph Human Boakai is not qualified for anything because there are thousands of Liberians who are in government up to this time that have no contribution to make and they're getting paycheck. I want to clarify that. Then is Joseph Human Boakai cannot be the alternative. Should Liberia make Joseph Human Boakai the alternative, we will be on a suicide to nowhere. Here is the thing. He was vice president. He has a role to play in the Senate. What did we see? Concessions agreements during their time in power, 12 solid years, while he was collecting over $2 million a year. According to a report, about 65 concessions agreements were declared bogus. Many of those agreements were not in the interest of the people. Boakai sat there, Noka became bankrupt. Ellen Johnson said, I put my neck on the chopping board. Did Boakai say a thing? No, he did not say anything. Boakai was right there when Ellen Johnson said, look, our educational system has become a mess or is a mess. Did he utter a word? No. So what is the opportunity when with this race car that was parked wake up? Now, Ellen declared corruption as a vampire. But later on, it became she declared enemy number one, and later on became a vampire. Joseph Human Boakai, at least for Ellen, she admitted that they could not fight corruption. Did Boakai utter a war on corruption at the time? No, he had nothing to offer because he was walloping in legalized corruption by taking home $2 million every budget year. That's why he took home. Fast forward, 2017 will come and Joseph Human Boakai will be on the ticket, unlike Joe Boakai. So Joe Boakai, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf could not support him. But unlike Joe Boakai, Joe Biden got the support of Obama. He was endorsed by Obama. That's what happened. And he will go on to win. He put the Obama coalition together. This is the experience statement some of them would tell us. But he could not put the Unity Party coalition together. Unity Party was divided. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf will go and endorse somebody who has no leadership experience like George Weah. Ellen will go and endorse George Weah. Do you know why? Have Lobo come to ask himself, why would Ellen Johnson Sirleaf leave Joe Boakai for a George Weah? Has Lobo asked that question? He will find out the fundamental answer to that. So here's Joe Boakai again. Finally, yes, CPP. He's the elder statesman. A CPP has no website. No website. What is the leadership he's providing? The CPP is like a cutthroat chicken. Where is the leadership Joe Boakai is providing in the CPP today? His own son, Dillon, right here. Here is Dillon sitting in front of him with his legs. Another guy who can be trusted, very pretentious, right in front of Joe Boakai. But today, we are saying this very Dillon now is a candidate. Have you asked yourself why this man who sat before Joe Boakai will go and declare his intention? He did not see it in Joe Boakai. Joe Boakai does not have it.
So the question is, based on what we have now, is Joe Boakai the alternative? Yes or no, Mr. Sear?
And I provide a reason for my no. It's a definite no.
Thank you. Mr. Lobo, you have the last word. 3 minutes.
First and foremost, JMB remains the best alternative available to lead Liberia. That is my position. Like I said, Mr. C can go ahead and be very dramatic. That's fine. On the issue of government squander opportunities, let me be very clear, Mr. C. I've said over and over, I think context matters. It is indeed an honest man. You say he did not speak out. The fact that he said to you that there were opportunities that we miss out on, which is normal. Every government, there are things, if you ask Barack Obama, one of the reasons why we see Democrats pushing so fast now, Democrats believe that during the 2008 recovery, they didn't go bold. So yeah, that was an opportunity they missed because they control both the lower house and the Senate, and they had the White House. So when a statesman, and you say he had never spoke out, he was not being honest, but then you say he said we squander opportunity. That's been disingenuous, and that speaks that you're not honest yet. Because that tells you that he spoke out. Let me say this. You said when something happened to Nokade, Ambassador Boakai didn't speak out. You're not being honest here. Let me give you the interview and hear what he said. He said, I do not hire, I do not fire. That was an expression of his dissatisfaction over those who had been hired at that time to serve. But let me be very clear answering. You know, I like the fact that this standard is being used to grade Ambassador Boakai. We must not forget, and the Liberian people know, William Arotobo was vice president to William V.S. Tubman. Tubman stopped the road to Toyota. Never heard Liberians say, why didn't Tobo resign? Why didn't Tobo speak out? The Tobo came to power when Tubman died. And we know that Tobo was one of the most progressive presidents Liberia ever had. And on the basis of that, we are saying to the Liberian people, Ambassador Boakai was the vice president for 12 years. So both Kuni and Anthony still, let me be very clear with you. Ambassador Boakai represented Liberia on the world stage, not once, not twice. So for you to say he was just collecting money and didn't do nothing, again, you are proving your level of dishonesty. Ambassador Boakai represented Liberia at the UNGA. I will not tell you what it is. I hope you read it. Because a man who is just parked and not doing nothing would not be at the UNGA. You talk about his travel allowances. I stated to you earlier, Ambassador Boakai is the only vice president that I know in Liberia history to have more than 4 state visits. Your current president have not been able to receive a state visit anyway. But imagine a vice president. So for you to say that Madam Salih did not want him, he was not useful, that itself is not fair. But let me come to something and put this in context from the Unity Party perspective. I want you to understand, Mr. C. For you to say Ambassador Boakai was not useful, he got nothing done, then it's not just that you're dishonest. The fact that the Unity Party government had to institute reforms that managed to secure a $4.5 billion debt waiver for money they did not borrow. Any Liberian would tell you that itself is a major accomplishment of the UP government. Not only that, the Unity Party government instituted reforms which qualified them for the NCC Compact Grant in 2015, which they managed to secure $257 million. Read the requirements, Mr. C, next time before you come on, because you don't secure that much fund if the government is not being honest, if transparency is, we don't meet the benchmark. So it's hard for you to sit there and tell us that a government that inherited a country that was a failed state with all its institutions destroyed and the vice president who presided over the Senate, and you say he did not do nothing. Let me help you when you talk in terms of legislation. Ambassador Boakai, as vice president, oversaw the passage of the Sustainable Development Act. Do you remember that? Not only that, Ambassador Boakai was there. The agenda for transformation, Vision 2030. You talk about he was not effective. Who led the land dispute settlement? Who was that? It wasn't Ambassador Boakai. So for you to sit there today and say these things, I want to say this. The Unity Party government, since independence, name me one government who paved more than 650 kilometers of road since independence. Name me one government that established more than 5 community colleges across the country. So when you speak, Anthony C., when we inherited the country in 2006, the very first thing, access to electricity, access to healthcare, according to Dr. Topana or Dr. Tobo Nyenswa, he said access to healthcare was 45% when the UP came in. And by the time the UP left, it was access to primary healthcare was over 80%. Not only that, Mr. C, I want to say this. The Unity Party government instituted reforms and set up institutions, credible institutions that made Liberia once again a vital, vibrant country on the world stage. And so when you sit here today and say the vice president, you want to divorce him from that accomplishment, the Liberian people know the fact, Mr. C. Let me say this. Your opinion, Ambassador Boakai, can be said as much as you want. But come 2023, Joseph Numa Boakai will be elected Liberia 26th president. And I will conclude on this note to tell you, Mr. C. When the UP, let me finish my thought. When the UP took over government, we inherited a national reserve of 6.5 billion in 2006. When we gave government to CDC, we gave them the government with a national reserve of $154.8 million. If to you that is a government that didn't do nothing, then let it be, let the Liberian people judge for themselves. But I will tell you this, Ambassador Joseph Numa Boakai is the best alternative we have, and he will be the next president.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia, and this is Tough Talking Thursday. My guest, Judge Preston Lobo of the Unity Party, Alice Wele Momba, Waymond Kunin, a chief political analyst here at Focus on Liberia, Mr. Anthony Sia, the host of the Hour of Politics here at Focus on Liberia, Mr. Axel W. Jackson, who's joining us from London. I'm Dennis Jah, breaking this to you. Now, the whole thing about the CPP now is we also have Mr. Alexander Cummings, and this time we'll take 2 minutes each, just go around the room. We'll have 2 minutes each, just one time you're going to speak to conclude, because The Boakai topic is the big one, but we must touch on this.
So we completed Boakai now, right? Are we done with Boakai?
Not completely.
But we're saying Cummings now. So okay.
Yeah, when we get to Cummings, somebody can pull Boakai legs. I can't control
If someone
that.
pull Boakai, when you ask me about Cummings, can I respond in that segment? Because I don't want you to say you're not sticking to the question.
Mr. Alexander Cummings. Hold on, Mr. Lobo. The second question here is Mr. Alexander Cummings a stranger to Liberian politics? And I give you 2 minutes each. I'm starting the timer, and you have only one time to do this. No follow-up. So just give me your first statement. Let me start with Mr. Jackson.
Oh, thank you very kindly. Like again, you know, Kumi, I follow him, you know, briefly, and of the time that I follow him, I have not been very impressed with his activities. For example, when he took over as chair of the CPP, the first press engagement he had was on 50-50. And during that press engagement, the issues that were being discussed in the country were basically two things. So they were discussing the issue of Dillon using unparliamentary words to describe his colleague because he was frustrated on how the recast budget was passed. And so Kumi went to studio 50-50, and instead of focusing his energy or the country's attention on the manner in which the recast budget was passed under the cover of darkness in violation of the PFN law section 14 and 18. Kumi did not do well with that conversation. He spent all his time trying to defend Dillon's vulgarity against a friend when he knew that, you know, vulgarity is not an acceptable practice in Liberian jurisprudence. Even in the parliamentary procedure or in the legislature, there are parliamentary decorum or legislative decorum that one must observe. So Dillon, out of frustration, calling his colleague spineless was not anything for Kumi to defend. So he spent most of the time defending that, and he did not stay on message. So I was a bit disappointed in him. Second disappointment that I've had with Kumi.
You have 15 seconds.
Yeah, 1 second remaining.
15 seconds. We're just taking 2 minutes to go through this. Go ahead.
The second disappointment I have with Kumi is that he's showing up in the public with a condemned FIFA fraudster named Musa Beliti. I believe that was wrong. It is contrast to public morality. And if somebody is condemned as the way Mr. Beliti has been condemned, his name is synonymous to corruption. Somebody who wants to fight corruption should not be snoozing with Mr. Beliti in public. And I drew an example with what happened in recent time. When I say recent time, 2019 in the United States, when Jeffrey Epstein, you know, Jeffrey Epstein was charged with sex trafficking in the United States, even though he was a well-connected billionaire. But all of his friends immediately issued press releases distancing themselves from Jeffrey Epstein. So I was wondering, how can Mr. Kumi, who is claiming or wanting to be president, being seen with a guy who has been condemned for corruption internationally and locally? What message was he sending to our people? Why couldn't he do as Bill Clinton did? Because when Jeffrey Epstein died, Bill Clinton immediately distanced himself from Jeffrey Epstein. Even the Prince of England, Prince Andrew, distanced himself. Donald Trump, even though he's not a very strong guy on moral issue, but Donald Trump himself even distanced himself. But today, see Ellis Cummings hanging around with
Mr. Jackson.
Corrupt, huh?
Yeah, thank you. This is very quick.
I don't lay my thought, man.
Yeah, I want you to be very quick, Mr.
Are we going to be rigid like that with a time now?
Yeah,
probably I yield to you, Mr. Moderator. I yield to you. Thank you.
Mr.
All right, so here's what I would say to you.
So when we talk about Mr. Cummings being a stranger, I want you to end with that same question we asked. given the current situation, will he be a better alternative? Mr. Jackson, let me let you learn on that one. Given the current slew of candidates,
so somebody who wants to, build a better Liberia, will not be hanging with people who are morally deprived.
Get that. So the question is, given what we
I
have
am
now,
worried. So I'm not positive. I'm not betting on Kumis. Let me tell you that one, because
thank you.
where they say the check that will grow into a coke, you can spot it from the day it's hatched or on the day it hatches, right? So
Thank you.
the way I see Kumi conducting himself, making friends with people who are denounced locally and internationally as corrupt, they are his best friend. I'm worried. They say, "Show me your friend, and I know who you are."
Thank you.
I'm a fair Kumi friend.
Thank you, Mr. Lobo.
So here's what I would say. I am in a collaboration. I'm a member of the Unity Party with Mr. Cummings party, and I've met Mr. Cummings one-on-one. I've dealt with Mr. Cummings. In that context, if you say he's a stranger, I won't say he's a stranger. He has been involved in Liberian politics now for more than 4 or 5 years. I don't think we should call anyone who has been around over 4 years a stranger. That's why he continues to tour the country. That will be up to the Liberian people. I think the best way to term Mr. Cummings would say that given the fact that he has been out for a very long time, there are certain things in Liberia he is not yet accustomed to as it relates to the dynamics of the local Liberian politics, which I think he's trying to catch up on. He's working towards it. Now, we all might have our different opinion about some of the people he might have around him, who he hangs out with. But again, like I said, that's part of the learning process. So I would consider him to be a new face. Now, on the issue you want me to learn, and I will do this out of respect for the ANC and for the CPP. I will say this to you. I strongly think Mr. Cummings now has an opportunity to make the case to the Liberian people. But is he a better alternative? My position has been very clear. Even when I met with Mr. Cummings in Monrovia, I sat down, I told him, I said, we are on different sides. You have a side. I said, but if you happen to be the standard bearer, I will support you. So for me, in all fairness, I've been very, very clear. I strongly believe the best alternative will remain JMB. Mr. Cummings, I don't think he's the best alternative.
Mrs. Moba.
Mr. Cummings, as I can see, he is a little bit new to the Liberian politics. He spent most of the time in the United States as an executive. And so the Liberian politics, you have to be around for some time. Even if you left the country and travel for some time, when you go back, you are kind of a little bit strange to the Liberian politics. And so Cummings might be having some of the problems, but that does not mean that he is not a good leader. So I would say that time will tell whether Cummings will be or will not be. But I think he has a chance to make better use of the time he has in Liberia, to be more familiarized with the Liberian people, and make some headways. It is important. People that he hangs around is important, because people will now later associate with people that you hang around with. And if they condemn the people that you hang around with, automatically, they will condemn you. So we have to be careful who we hang around with. But he is a great person. I think he will make a good president if he were to become the leader of the party and put forward for the presidency. At the same time, he also could do better because of his experience from the United States and connections. He could be somebody great. So for now, I would say yes, he has a fair chance, like anybody else, to take the presidency.
Alex, we are talking tough here. Does Comey has a constituent? Where can you bet? Because up to now, if you are still thinking that he has learning things to learn, be very bold to us. We are talking tough. Is he a stranger?
We are talking tough, okay? I know we are talking tough. But Cummings is from Maryland, okay? He's from the Southeast. And even if you don't have a constituent, you have a hometown that can be your first constituent. So I can 100% bet that he has a constituent in Liberia, even in Monrovia, even he got partisans that still believe in him. Those are the constituents. And as time goes by, more people will be added to propel him to the seat.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. CA. This is we're talking 2023. Alex says he has time, but I don't see much time. What's your take? Is coming a stranger, and given what we have now, could we be the better alternative?
You know, Dennis, there are two politicians on the platform, Jackson and Lobo.
Oh God.
You see how the pitch of their voice will decline. And you also see how it will go up. When I propounded, you saw Lobo was fired up. But when it came to Cummings, I'm in a collaboration. You know, that's the problem with politicians, Dennis. And that is why I like who I am. I speak boldly and freely because I am not in anybody's pocket, or I am not planning to get in somebody's pocket. Lobo wants to get in Boakai's pocket. They are in a collaboration. So he will romanticize with a language and learn softly. Now, Anthony here. To the question, is Coming a stranger to Liberian politics? Yes. Do you know the definition of a stranger? Everybody have their own definition. To the people of Liberia, look, here's the thing, Dennis. When you are running for public office, Jackson will agree with me here, you are left at the mercy of those who have the voting cards. If those people say you are a stranger, of course you are a stranger. That is the definition, politically speaking. If the people who are supposed to vote you say you're stranger, you're stranger. You may be there many years, but if they say you are a stranger, you are a stranger. So on that basis, yes, Mr. Alexander Cummings is a stranger. But there are other variables. Has he demonstrated leadership that the Liberian people can gravitate to? No, it's not in his nature. Does he actually need to do that? Yes, he must do that. He must do that. Now, Mela DeLong will find a way to acquire his language. Mela Yeke Koluba, whose language is completely unacceptable, will find a way, and Cummings will travel with Yeke Koluba. He will justify the language of Yeke Koluba. You know why he's trying to do that? He's trying not to be seen as that stranger who doesn't tough. That is his nature, but that nature is foreign to Liberia. Now, what is more foreign to Liberia is the mere fact that Cummings' organization skills as a politician, they are too archaic, they are too Western. That kind of organization skill can fly in Liberia. Cummings knows, or if he doesn't know, let him find the best sons and daughters of the counties. Let him bring them into his fold. I thought this man is an experienced CEO who should be able to tap into talents. He came from a result-driven oriented terrain. I mean, why are the result-driven oriented skills that he's applying in the political sphere? Jackson will agree with me. He is not demonstrating that. So being a good man doesn't count in this business of politics. You got to be on your A game, and Mr. Cummings is not on his A game. So I have one advice for him. In as much I don't think that Joe Boakai represents any alternative to Liberia. I will admonish Cummings to hang on Joe Boakai's coat. And this is my reason, not because he's qualified by any imagination. It is more so because the people in Liberia, because we are a colossal failure, they are counting on Joe Boakai. So that may be his ticket to smear anything called presidency. I know he may not listen to it. That is how blunt I am. That is his path. And I'll say it openly and boldly. Anything short of that, he will not get to the presidency.
So that means Boakai is the alternative.
Thank
Let him do it right now. Let him hang
So
on
Boakai
Joe
is the
Boakai.
alternative. Can you ask that question now?
No, I will not ask that question. Let me go to Mr.
Well, he
Kone.
said coming to hang on Boakai code, then what does that mean?
Because the CPP got to send somebody, right?
Yeah, but if so, how can come hang on Boakai code if it's not the alternative? So the CPP
Dennis,
now you let him.
Dennis,
Let
you
me
know
go.
just what happened just now? You saw Lobo smiling, right? But
Yeah.
when I was posting Boakai, he was pissed. And all he did throughout his expose was Anthony is dishonest. When I come to intellectual disco, I attack the issue. I persecuted Omen Boakai on his record. But when he came, what did he do? He attacked me. I'm dishonest. I'm
I
this,
spoke
I'm
about
that.
the issues.
That is what he did. And that's what the politicians in Liberia do. They don't go to the issues. He's not on the ticket. Boakai is on the ticket. But hey, folks, here's the thing. What do you expect Lobo to do? There he is. He was like he's close to the presidency. And
Right.
so he will fine tune his language so that his bread can be buttered just as Jefferson Koji's bread is buttered today. These are the politicians we have. Thank you.
Mr. Kune, let's go to Mr. Cummings, your fellow Southeasterner.
I want year, they 1 year.
Okay.
I got 1 year.
Okay, Dennis.
The man on different book already.
Please, I like your introduction, and it's not part of my 2 minutes. But first of all, I want to state here very clearly that Mr. Cummings is a very, very decent Liberian. He's very, very well accomplished in his professional area. There's no dispute about that. He has a very, very, very broad mind, and he has demonstrated that he has the ability to implement programs, to lead organization, all of that. I think he has that ability. But I do agree that in some respect, he appeared to be a stranger to the political situation in Liberia. There are various reasons for that. Maybe if we go into round 2, I will go to those reasons.
No round 2 on this one.
Oh, well, some of the reasons why Mr. Cummings may be viewed as a stranger to Liberian politics is the fact that Mr. Cummings has been away from the Liberian scene. Even during his stay in America, many people are asking, where was Mr. Cummings when it comes to the various community activities in the diaspora? Where was Mr. Cummings when Liberians in the diaspora were fighting the issue of immigration and other issues that confront various Liberian communities? I think those are some of the standards that people are using. And other people are asking, this very accomplished, brilliant Liberian, where was he during the dark days of Liberia? Where were some of the activities he participated in prior to his electoral campaign, prior to declaring his ambition to be president? People are wondering, what did he do for Liberia? How did he bear the flag for Liberia? Where did he promote Liberia prior to the time of his political campaign in Liberia? I think when people are not finding answers to those issues, this is where the stranger concept is coming in. But having said that, looking at his record, looking at his accomplishment in the corporate world, I'm not in the CPP, but it is the candidacy of Mr. Cummings that actually frightened me. He's the most accomplished. He has record. He has a lot of linkages that I think will be very formidable in a general election type situation. In the CPP, I see him. In the CPP,
Mr. Kune, hold on. You say his candidacy frighten you. Why?
Because I find him more accomplished than Boakai. I mean, Boakai can be dispatched of,
So you are speaking as a supporter of the CDC. That's why it frightens you.
Exactly. There's a strategy. We know that strategy.
I'm speaking.
We know that strategy.
Hold on, Lobo.
Looking for
Y'all
a
want the
weekend
weakest
level, we
candidate.
are to run again. Looking for a weekend level, we are to run again.
We know that strategy. We know that strategy. Trust me, we maybe.
I will mute them. I will mute them.
Mr. Moderator, can I be protected here?
Yeah, I muted them. Go ahead.
I'm speaking as an analyst of the Liberian political environment.
No, because you say it frightens you, so it means it's a threat to you or to your candidate.
Well, maybe, yeah. What I was trying to say, you will be a much more formidable candidate when it comes to pairing him against the leadership. I find him more compelling. I find him more accomplished. I find him more adept at leadership than people within the CPP. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So Dennis, hold on. So the man who accumulated 7% of the total vote scares you. The man who got 28% and went to the runoff, you're not in front of him.
No,
Wow.
I thought you said you didn't want to go to 2017.
No, I mean, I'm just asking. I'm using the data. I'm using the data.
All right. Here is my last question for the night. And we'll start with Alice. Alice, you start this one. We see that AB Darius DeLong supporters, they're throwing some trial balloons out there that indeed he's going to contest. Is Darius DeLong presidential candidacy a game changer? Does it throw a monkey wrench in the CPP? Will it scatter the party? Or is DeLong a formidable candidate? Let's talk DeLong now.
Well, I don't think, I mean, with, I respect him. He's a firebrand. He brings a lot of things, for the youth to follow, but I don't see him as a formidable candidate for the Liberian presidency. Not at all. There are several reasons. Being popular at a time, especially against the sitting government, coming through that on a national scene as a popular person, it doesn't mean that going for the presidency, you will be favored the same way you are favored now as a senator or representative. I don't see it. I don't think he can go that far.
Mr. C, you are the one who's talking tough on these issues.
Yeah, I was hoping that all the panelists will be talking tough, but it seems to be they are talking tough soft. That is unacceptable on the tough talking Thursday. DeLong, should I be taking?
Mr. C, let me stop you. You come and scatter this whole thing. Let me go to Jackson.
Yeah.
My man.
You want to
best speak.
No, Jackson couldn't wait. Let's see her speak second. Go ahead, Jackson.
I should go in now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, I think we do a gross disservice to Liberia when we mention DeLong and the presidency in one sentence. That would be a massive disservice to our country. Because DeLong is an indecent opportunist, a dishonest charlatan, and a massive pretender. And so I don't think he will make any good president. Let me say why I use those words.
Right. And you have one
more
minute.
The man is an indecent opportunist because, for number one, the Taylor regime, DeLong as an opportunist seized on the bandwagon of the Taylor regime, where he served as special assistant to Councillor T.C. Gould. And as special assistant to Councillor T.C. Gould, DeLong and T.C. Gould were defending the excesses of the Taylor regime, including the gruesome murder of Samuel Seyi Doki and his entire family. When you come even to the Seli administration, with all the allegations that were hanging around Robert Seli, DeLong and Robert Seli were best of friends. Opportunism, trying to get the crumbs from Robert Seli. So this false pretenses that he been engaging in and people listening to him will take him nowhere. You go to the man, ask him for his high school credential. He lied about his high school credential. And he made one of our friends on the show to make a mockery of himself when he said, where is Dylan high school credential? He said, no, I will show a picture when you were in uniform. I mean, this man cannot show a fitting wire certificate. And somebody comes on a big platform and say, we will bring a school uniform. Why you in picture? Come on.
Thank you.
I want to go one more step.
15 seconds.
In recent time, the pretenses in the Senate, publicly he criticized our chair pro tempore, Liberia of being corrupt. He was accused publicly that he crawled on his belly pathetically to our chair's horse in the night, and he was begging for hand up. This man is a false pretender. All he does is to look for someone to see opportunity and make maximum use of it. That's how he made it left through all. And I don't think Liberian people should even mention him in the same sentence when we're talking about presidency. Because he is uninspiring, he was taken away from our country, he lied about his high school credential, he been involved with the excesses of the Taylor regime, he been bootlicking and dragging behind people just to get crumbs. He is not today. He cannot even talk about the issue of precedence in your own party. We have the party is being today chaired by a guy who has been condemned internationally and locally as a corrupt bandit. Dylan says that.
Thank you. Watch your language. Thank you. Now let me go to the political bulldog, Mr. C.
Then it is a sad day in Liberia. It is a sad day for Liberians. George Lobo is saying why? Because he's politician. He close to Dylan. He and Dylan are friends now. So he will say wow.
I'm talking about Liberia. Go ahead.
I'm talking about Liberia here, Lobo. So it's a sad day for Liberia. First of all, Dylan is not brave enough to announce. He has to go through a proxy.
It's a joke.
To float the idea of him wanting to run. We saw this coming. So this is a grave seeker. In his own words, he said, I was with the Salih. The grave was right in front of me. And I left the grave. Oh yeah, Mr. Dylan, that was after you have had enough of the grave. When your belly was full with the grave, you left. And he left Unity Party or Liberty Party for that grave. He will leave the grave when he got to know that that grave was drying up with the Unity Party. He went back to his party. Fortunately for him, a CPP. And he saw another grave. Look, if the presidency is the place to see grave, and the Lord knows that is how it has been historically, then he's your guy. But if we are looking for a leader who wants to transform our country, it's a pity. It is a pity that Darius Dylan will want to be president of Liberia, and he will not muster the courage to utter it from his own mouth. He's testing the water. Very recently, he posted on Facebook asking Liberians to decide the ticket of the CPP. An opinion poll. When he saw that his name was mentioned, now he told Yato, go and tell the people I'll be running. He has been influenced by Emmanuel Yato and others to run. His ego has been ballooned because luckily he claimed a senatorial seat. And so he has seen Liberia as that table that he can come to any time for him to get some bread to eat. No, Dylan is not your guy. He's not a guy for Liberia. This is a guy who has exchanged his support for the Senate, for dual citizenship for his fellow Liberians. Dylan is supporting dual citizenship today because Liberians in the diaspora supported him for his candidacy to be senator. That is the only reason Dylan is supporting dual citizenship today. If you think I'm lying, ask Emmanuel Yato. So the guy who will tell Liberian, okay, I will participate to make you get dual citizenship because you made me senator. That is the guy. It's a sad day for Liberia, and I rest my case, Dennis.
Mr. Lobo, you look very stunned. What's going through your mind?
Dennis, not that I'm stunned. We need to be serious here on a lot of things. And here's my reason for it. I have been very clear. In 2017, I made a decision, and my candidate came close to the finish line, and he is still around, and therefore I strongly believe I will go with my candidate. Because DeLon is from the Liberty Party, let me be very clear, and for the records, we must not forget I come from the Unity Party. It would not be wise to attack a candidate from one of the other coalition parties. So what I will say, let me finish.
I don't like this politics here. Let's
no, but you can't say no, Mr. Jai, you got to understand something, right?
Yeah.
Let me say this to you. DeLon and myself, if DeLon is a let's see, let me finish.
Yeah.
When DeLon becomes a candidate,
we are talking about our country, Liberia. Yeah, we're not talking about your CPP and your Unity Party. We are talking about our country.
Anthony said, let me speak.
Hold on, Mr. C. Go ahead. We're talking about it.
Let me be very clear here with you folks.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we must not forget DeLon as a Liberian citizen, it is his constitutional right as long as he reaches age to run. That's his business. So what needs to happen? The Liberians must decide. Does DeLon have what it takes to be a president? Can DeLon lead a country like Liberia? Have DeLon demonstrated in the Senate the attributes of a president?
What do you think?
Does DeLon, let me finish. Here's what I would say to you, Mr. C and Ja again. If DeLon emerges as the Liberty Party standard bearer, don't forget now, we are going to go to a primary. We're going to have to campaign, right? At that time, we lay the eggs there. So what I will not do is this. It will not be profound to say, oh, because it is his constitutional right to contest. Now, there are things I didn't agree with DeLon on. When DeLon and myself, when it came to dual citizenship, I was very clear in my position. I took a stand against DeLon. There are issues that I have problem with DeLon on which I've addressed. So what will happen is this, Mr. C and Mr. Ja. Let the Liberian people decide. I'm not sure if the Liberty Party will bring DeLon, but if they do, we'll make that argument. Don't forget, I already have a candidate. So DeLon will be a contender to my candidate. So I will be prepared for that. So I want to just leave it like that. That's what I would say on it.
So as of today, what makes your candidate better than DeLon?
The experience, the leadership accomplishment, the moral judgment we talk about, his length of service and the things he's been able to accomplish, zero corruption record. He is not on record for seeking or for wanting to be identified with people because he wants something. This is why my candidate worked as a janitor at CWA, the school of the East, to acquire his education. And on that background, that is why I strongly believe he said the best alternative to lead Liberia.
Are you disappointed if you look at this picture? Here is who is at the feet of VP Boakai. Are you hurt that he's going against Mr. Boakai?
I am not hurt because you know what happened.
Are you disappointed?
No, I am not disappointed. And here's why. You see, in politics, from the moment the Liberian people elected DeLon as the senator, they should have understood that a man that DeLon who made it very clear that he has political ambition, that nothing was going to stop him. So I'm pretty sure Ambassador Boakai himself knows that it is DeLon's constitutional right to contest, and therefore we'll face him DeLon when the time comes, if he is the senator of the Liberty Party. And we'll be prepared for that. At that time, wait for me to see it. Relax, you'll be
fine. Mr. Kune, 2 minutes. DeLon.
I say when you come to me, you can announce the time before you come out.
No, 2 minutes, you give myself
listen, I only say sadness, but I say, look, this is the classic tragedy that has befallen our country. That we can take anything can be leader. You know, somebody married, being a wife, we even know what in the relationship, we take that thing to be here, that presidential quality. You know, somebody, a serious bureaucrat that change job over time, just sitting out for government to change, we say that presidential material. It's the same thing we're talking about DeLon. Dillon can best be described as an activist. He's an activist that got elected by the people. Where in the Senate has Dillon shown leadership? You know, as a legislator, how many legislative bills has he brought forth that has become law? Because these are the things that he evaluate leadership. You had a dual citizenship there. John Lobo then fool him. He made the announcement for dual citizenship. The thing is in coma. What is the leadership he's building to even take that bill to make it law? So if a legislator want to seek the presidency, these are the questions you ask. What is this man's leadership portfolio in the legislature? Who are the lawmakers he bringing around to make law? How many pieces of legislature has he drafted? You know, to be a successful legislator is not press conferences, it's not press releases. So here's another failed legislator that in the CCP camp, they have a serious bureaucrat moving from one government to the other government with no accomplishment. Now you understand why I said that Alexander Cummings was somebody of reasonable standing in that failed group. Whether the Liberian people will make another decision for him, I don't know. But if you look at that failed group of the Omer Boakai, of the Darrell Dillon, and of Alexander Cummings, Cummings is an alternative to those two. They got nothing to show. This man will criticize legislative entitlement. When he take it and people point it out, he say, oh, that was benefit. The other people that were taking it on the work and cover, they were taking it as benefits. And you say you are going to shine a light. But when you put it in your pocket as benefit, when the other people take it, you say that corruption. This guy is a classic opportunist. This is the man who campaigned, who put restrictions in the dual citizenship bill for it to pass the legislature, turn it around because they didn't meet the political purpose, campaign against it, and then thoroughly submitted another bill only for political cover for Lobo and his friend that can collect, go from me for him all the time. This man is not a leader. He's just
Thank you. This is
the
where I
man
want
who
all
gonna
of
come back on another tough talking Thursday.
Yeah, we have gone 2 hours already, so I want all of you. This should be your closing statement, right? For us to close. And sorry, we didn't even take calls or comment because it's hot here. It's tough talking Thursday. Anytime you talk about DeLong or you talk about this, where people are quick to run is look at George Weah, right?
I agree.
It's people became president, man.
Yeah. So everything you say now, they say look at. So this is why I want us to conclude, right? With all we have said, we talk about Cummings, Boakai, and now DeLong. And if these people, they have to go against one person, and that will be George Manning Weah. So let's conclude with this. Wait now. You say Cummings, you say Boakai, you say DeLong. What's about George Weah? 1 minute each. Let me start with Lobo.
We're discussing George Weah now.
I didn't get the premise of our
the premise of the question here is
not a question or a statement.
You can take it whatever we do here. The comparison people make is how about George Weah? So people are saying George Weah is bad enough that anybody can replace him, right? Others are saying no, George Weah is still the best, or is still a better alternative. So let's compare everything we have said tonight. Contrast that with President Weah. Okay. Is President Weah the alternative 2023 or not, based on what we have?
So let me say this. And this is my closing, right?
Yeah, that's closing.
Beautiful. In my closing, I can't really talk more about it. I want to take this time to thank Focus on Liberia. I want to thank my fellow panelists, Mrs. Ali Wilson Molba, as the only female. Thank you for coming among us here and standing the heat here. I want to thank Minister Jackson for his expertise. My senior brother Anthony C.
And George, may I correct you on something? Hold on, I didn't mean to take your time. Say woman, don't say female. Somebody corrected us on something. Yeah, so please.
Okay, the female, the woman, right?
Yeah,
I would just say my
dear woman panelist.
I would just say my mother on the panelist. Is that okay?
No, it's not even appropriate. Just say the only woman panelist.
Okay, the only woman panelist. You see the problem, you see the thing again. I said it for the starting. So the other prosecution will get prosecuted after a year. All right, thanks for the correction. So let me say, Mr. I want to thank the only female or the only woman panelist. I want to thank my pap, Wemon Kuni. We don't agree on a lot of things. He knows it. We have disagreement from the CDC background. And my dear big brother Anthony C, Minister Jackson, and Dennis Jai himself in studio. To the listening public, I want to say thanks to all of you for following with us today, for taking up your time to join us. You've heard our arguments. You've heard the discussion. Why is it? I, George Preston Lobo, believe that Joseph Numa Boakai is the best as it relates to that of George Weah. We've seen a president who has no respect for the rule of law. We've seen a president who has been very reckless in his deliberation as it relates to the governance of the state. We've seen a president who has legalized corruption, who has diminished Liberia's reputation on the world stage, who has turned our country into a laughing stock. We've also seen a president whose government have failed to uphold the basic code and ethical norms we've lived and survived by as a country. Having said that, under his watchful eyes, poverty continues to increase. More Liberians today are suffering than they were when he came to power. So on the basis of that, we need a way forward. And we believe that the way forward is Joseph experienced humble Numa Boakai, a man who has been tested, a man who has no record of corruption, a man who is a dedicated, committed public servant. And I believe he's the way forward. And thank you once again. And to our only woman panelists, I want to say thank you for mustering the courage for being here. I look forward to having this conversation. I hope you can be here. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you. And again, from the feminist standpoint, if you tell the woman candidate that thank you for mustering the courage, they call that patronizing. So, let me go to Alice. Your concluding statement, and let's compare all this with President Weah in your conclusion.
Well, as it stands right now, we know that the government is a pro-poor government. All right. So the definition of pro-poor, when I look at it, and the suffering of the Liberian people, the poverty, the murder that going on in the country, just everything that is not right about Liberia, the hardship, finances are tight, jobs are hard to come by, even those who are working cannot get paid on time. So the situation has gone from worse to ridiculous when we try to compare the past to where we are now. And when I look at the phrase pro-poor government, and I'm thinking, well, I thought, it was something like, whether it is against the masses of the people or it is against the people that are in power, that question is very still hard to answer. Because I think people, when I look at the phrase, it means that we like the poverty. We like our people to be poor. We like the suffering that the Liberian people are going through right now. So that's why we call the phrase pro-poor. So it is not the other way around when we look at the situation that's in the country. So I would think that comparing all these people, Liberian people will have to, right now, I don't have a political party. I am speaking from a standpoint, I'm speaking from the point that I am somebody independent right now in my thought and in my statements. So I would think that the Liberian people will do more diligence to themselves to make a right decision in the coming election. So if you compare the three people, first of all, we want to restore dignity to our country. It is so disgusting that all these people flying around in the street, denigrating the president of Liberia, all relationships. It's so bad. It gone bad really, and we need to restore respect to our country internationally, locally, and regionally. We have to restore that respect to Liberia. So I think the Liberian people, comparing all these people, we have to make a better choice to elect somebody come 2023 who will restore dignity to the country. I think it's very important because when we have dignity as a country, we will be able to have a chance on the international scene where the country will come back to normal. That's my advice to the Liberian people, and I think they will make a better decision come 2023.
Mr. Kone.
Giving
Go
all the
ahead.
analysis that we've made. Elola, I'm muted.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm highly confident that given all the analysis that we made here of the CPP, which is supposed to be the alternative, it's clear that the CPP is not a credible alternative. It has not demonstrated any capacity to provide alternative leadership for the country. So I think I'm of the view that come 2023, the Liberian people will stick with George Weah. You see, for each time a lipo is planted in Monrovia, it is the repudiation of the 12 years of failed leadership. For each time a pipe is planted onto the ground to bring water into Monrovia, it is a repudiation of the 12 years of failed leadership. For each time you see light going on in other regions of the country, it is a repudiation of that failed leadership. For each time you see government housing that was restricted only to Monrovia is now being spread throughout the country, it is a repudiation of that failed leadership. And sometimes the elite, they criticize our people for jubilating. But what do you expect of somebody who never seen light in their whole life and somebody gave them light? It is your failure. It is your failure you should take into consideration rather than denigrating these people. So, despite the challenges that our country faces, as the CDC government continue to make these gains, incremental infrastructure development, road network, community rules, rural housing, rural electrification, contribution to rural health, all of these things. And if you compare that to an unaccomplished octogenarian who has nothing to show for 42 years, and then if you compare it to a hustler, activist, legislator who moved from place to place, there is nothing. Now, I indicated that Mr. Cummings I find him accomplished, but the question the Liberian people will be asking is that the lesson of Madame Salif is fresh in their mind. It was the same reasoning the Liberian people used when they elected Madame Salif. She appeared to be accomplished with all of these things. She worked in the international community, and the Liberian people thought that those credentials and those work ethics would be translated to improving their lives. So when the Liberian people are reminded that, look, there was an accomplished Liberian with international credentials who we confer leadership on, but that person did not improve our lives. I think the challenge would be very difficult for Mr. Cummings. That's the challenge he faced. But I'm not worried about, the other people. So given all of those situations, even with the COVID economy, you find the Liberian government is making great strides to do whatever they can to improve the welfare of the people. Notwithstanding the challenges, you talking about death. Come on, there were death in Ellen Johnson Salita. What year and Greaves died? What year Allison died? Was it Georgia president that the people died? The death of any Liberian is worrying. Nobody celebrate when a Liberian died. But that made death a unique feature. During Ellen Johnson Salita, people died. And guess what? The government people will still die.
Mr. Cummings, thank you so much. Let me go to Mr. Jackson and then see it. Mr. Jackson,
So
your final word.
you were okay. My mouth is
2
okay.
minutes.
What I would say in conclusion first is to discount what our big brother just concluded with. There were death in Seli government, there were death this way, there were death that way. That is what the British people can call the shoplifter defense. The shoplifter defense. Oh, other people did it, so we'll do it. I mean, that people die up and down, but Ruby or doing Seli time, it doesn't make it justifiable for people to die in their time. We killed 250,000 people in that place as a result of the war. Nobody should be dying and people not taking it seriously. We can't justify one wrong on top of another wrong. It's wrong. So what I would say in concluding is, Mr. Weir will have a chance if and only if he worked hard at the economy. People are concerned about bread and butter issue. He needs to improve security in the country. It is not a good thing for people to be dying up and down the country and people find it plausible excuses about people die early time. When Harry Green passed away in early time, there was serious investigation that was carried out. 2 people died right on Broad Street today. There's no serious investigation being carried out. They're telling us that the people died from carbon monoxide. Nobody, not my 6-year-old daughter cannot even believe that story. So there's a need for us to work at the security situation in the country. When people start dying like they take away other people. People get afraid to go to the country. So, there'll be low confidence for people to go to the country. We got to do something about that. So we need to work at the security if he wants to, retain the presidency. He also needs to insist on the independence of the judiciary. With all the rule of law, the economy will crumble. People want to have confidence in the judicial system. And so that we need an independent judiciary to restore public confidence to the court. The judiciary will serve as a bulwark to our democracy. So if we can work on those things with the last 3 years remaining, maybe you have a chance. So Uncle Joe Boakai, who, I have some sympathy for because I served as a former deputy minister and then I represented the government at the IMO. I can say to him, one of the good things that he will need to do very quickly is to exert influence on members of the legislature coming from his party. It is not a good thing for people in the Senate from the CPP or the Unity Party to always vote along with the CDC. We saw a terrible situation that happened with Justice Kabina Janet. When they voted along with the CDC on the Janet thing, they undermined the independence of the judiciary. It's not a good thing. It's not a good sign. So they who are leaders in the CPP, they must show some leadership by influencing their lawmakers to do the right thing for the country. I pick up the example of the Janet case because the Janet case speaks to what happened in 1987. In 1987, I'm concluding, right? I'm concluding.
Yeah, conclude, please.
Very fast. In 1987, when Doe wanted to neutralize the judiciary, he impeached Chair Chipo. And by the time he impeached Chair Chipo, every other member of the judiciary got threatened. So Doe started having a way with the judiciary. And the judiciary became a puppet Supreme Court, during the Doe regime. We don't need that. The issue with Kumi is comfortable with corrupt individuals. So we need to be careful with him. Anybody who wants to fight corruption should not be comfortable walking around with Musa Bility, who has been condemned locally and internationally as a criminal or as a fraudster. You must avoid him. You must show resentment against that kind of person. Anything to hang around with that person is wrong. With Dillon is a lying charlatan, an indecent opportunist. A name should not mention in the same sentence with the presidency. We should not do that in service to our country, and we should get away from calling Dillon near the presidency.
Mr. Sie, your conclusion. You are
Thank you. I want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Jackson. It is late at his end, and he made a decision to join Tough Talking Thursday. Yeah, and I just hope that anytime he's losing his sleep to be on Tough Talking Thursday, he should be tough enough. He talked about Cummings working with ability. That is true. If Cummings, who is known for saying we can't be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results, will be the champion of doing those very things over and over, then he does not understand the meaning of his own statement. So that is unfortunate on his part. But Jackson will go to share his sympathy for Boakai because they work in the same government. No, that's the problem I have with these politicians. Dennis, we're talking about our country. There are people who can find corporate to eat right now. He's having sympathy for somebody who was walking away with $2 million. He is yet to express his sympathy for the boy in Nikru Town who has not eaten. Then you see these people? Well, I will leave Jackson alone. Next time he should can't talk.
Yeah.
Lobo will go justify that because Joseph Yaman Boakai was at the UNGA, so he was working. But he will say Georgia is not working, even though Georgia was at the UNGA. Is that your yardstick? Then you don't have a point on where. If going to the UNGA is the justification that somebody is doing anything serious, then let Liberian people cry their own cry. We have to get serious here. And Mr. Cooney justifying that, oh, there were deaths in Ellen government. And this is what I agree with Mr. Jackson. You want to use that justification? 250,000 people die. Nobody should even be sick of malaria in Liberia today. Least to talk about death. So, Mr. Cooney, I mean, your justification completely unacceptable. I think that justification is nothing but tabata. We're talking about lives here. This is tough talking toss. If you guys aren't ready to talk, just leave and go. Look, Dennis, Lobo will go to Lace Boakai's achievement, but he forgot something. Education. When he was justifying for Boakai, he didn't talk anything about education under the Unity Party administration. Ellen said it was a mess. Lobo will also talk about electricity. What electricity during the Unity Party government? Where? Lobo, come on. If Ellen just believe, if the Unity Party administration have done well with electricity, Joshua will not be passing around with solar panel lights around the city to make our people to be dancing, because what they are doing is telling our young ones to go in the streets to study. If Unity Party has done well by the Liberian people when it comes to electricity. So Lobo, your facts are not right. Get it straight. Finally, what I see the CDC doing with the shiny object projects around is not going to get us there. John Magufuli here around 6 years turned Tanzania into a middle income country. Unity Party had 12 years. Where are we? We're still looking for safe drinking water in Monrovia. I'm not talking about Grand Q. You can't talk about a we are to be an alternative at this time when all we have seen is nothing but disappointment, thievery. This man came to power, all he tried to do is to build his economic lord. Mansions are all over the place. A son of Gibraltar will even steal money from our treasury to put zinc on people's homes in Claratown where he had lived. When he had the millions, he couldn't do it. Then let's don't get me started. We have to end the show.
Let's end this show, Mr. Sear. Conclude.
And so I will leave it there. But Lobo, if you want to debate me on the issue of Boakai, you can come to the hour of politics, or I can join you on the drive so we can have that debate. I'm looking for a Liberia that your Lobo will not go to Joseph Yaman Boakai and sit down on a fee like DeLong just to get a job. That is the Liberia I'm fighting for. Are you not competent to be president? I'll leave it there, my friend. Thank you, Dennis.
I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for Tough Talking Thursday. I want to appreciate all our viewers who stay here with us. Come here every Thursday at 6 and we will be talking tough. Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We don't ever close our broadcast without playing the song that we are all Liberians, because let's face it, our country is in a terrible state. We have changed president, and most of the time the reason we want people in power is because their ascending to power will benefit us one way or the other. Well, Samuel Tue and the rest of the people, they hung around George Weah, and now they are benefiting. So now, even though Lobo knows that Joseph Boakai is old,
Yeah, my
and we
man.
have some alternative, but yes, okay, he's the person we have now. Let's just hang with him so that he can give us something. And Mr. Cooney will tell me, even though he's benefited nothing from George Weah, will tell me, well, he's okay. No, he's not okay. This is not the country we want. When I saw my friend James Lassa posting something about DeLong, like he's so excited about the DeLong candidacy, I said, what's wrong with these people? Is this the best we can have?
Yeah.
I mean, why can't we look for the best among us? Mr. Lobo, you know Boakai is not the best. Mr. Cooney, you know Weah is not the best. Mr. Jackson, you know all these people. They're not the best. We still have competent Liberians that can do this job. Let us search a little deeper, and not because we are close to these people, because Liberia is the only country we have. And let me close here by saying we are all Liberians. No matter what your leaning may be, Liberia is the only country we have, and we must do everything it takes to make that country the glorious land of liberty. Good night, and God bless you.